Testing, testing. Why am I holding this little baby mic with two hands? I don't know. You see that Christmas tree? That is for the aesthetic in the background. That's why I gave you a glimpse of it, because guess what? It's winter. Anyways, I'm already off track. Welcome, guys. This is my first YouTube video, and I'm going to try to keep it pretty raw and unedited. But this is essentially my story, why I got into calisthenics, and why you should think about doing it, especially if you're a woman, because it's life changing and it is so rewarding. I wish I was lying, but you can see for yourself. Anyways, my name is Christina. I probably already said that, but I already forgot. You can call me Christineth. It's Christineth. If you don't know that, I'm disappointed in you. You should go watch the other guys right now because it is a classic comedy. So we're getting off track again, but let's stick to the story. So I got into calisthenics about a year and a couple months ago, a year ago, essentially. And I worked out my whole life. There's nothing crazy to it really, but I started playing soccer when I was like 4 years old, played up until I graduated high school. And you can guess what happened from there. You realize you can't be eating the same stuff and not put on the freshman 15, whatnot, whatever you want to call it. And so I put on some weight, but I got into lifting because I was like, holy wow, I can't be, a big back. I can't be big back Tina. That's what they called me. That's what I called myself. And I covered it with a joke because I was really insecure, which is what happens to people sometimes. Anyways, I started lifting weights and I was always like dense. Like I'm naturally pretty dense. I have some tissue on me, I don't know where I'm really going with that, but I got into lifting weights and I thought I was focusing on the nutritional side of things, but I never tried to track every little thing or anything like that, right? And so I went to college at San Diego State. I graduated about a year and a half ago, almost 2 years, which is crazy, with a degree in finance. That's how all the finance bros say it. That's probably why I talk the way I do, because I was accustomed to the lifestyle of a finance bro. Anyways, yeah, went there. I know what you're thinking though. You are that English, please. You are probably a party girl. Believe it or not, I was not in a sorority. I transferred from a junior college, but all my roommates were. So I had an idea of what that was like, but I really just met a lot of people in my classes and I don't know, just did my own thing and went with the flow. But yeah, I graduated with a bachelor's in finance and I was set to work the traditional routes, the corporate world, right? Be a corporate girly, whatever you want to call it. And I was convincing myself that that was the route I wanted to take when in reality it wasn't, which is why I am here where I am now. But I worked at a restaurant at the same time as a personal trainer while I was down there. So those were the jobs on the side. And I always found myself going back to fitness. Like there's little glimpses like that would pop up into my life. And it's like someone was freaking beating me with a chancla. Like, hey, like this is your sign. Do this. Try to pursue this. See what you can make of it. Because it really was my passion. But I was trying to be, an intellectual chick. I am very smart, but you get my point. Maybe you don't. I don't know. I keep saying that. It's like a filler word, kind of like, anyways, wow, we did it again. This will get better over time. Don't worry. But yeah, I graduated. I moved back home and I was set to work a job in a biotech startup company. And it was essentially cold calling at the start, like every other I don't want to say every other, but a lot of entry level roles, right? Where you're just put in a room and it's like, hey, financial analyst, wealth management. I was trying to get into all of that stuff. So I didn't, which is why I'm talking now. But I was convinced I wanted to do that. And so when I turned that down, I also was doing a cutting program with a group of people, right? So I moved back home and I did a cut. It was supposed to be some kind of reality show. Things fell through with this other group of people. And I got really lean for absolutely no reason, but it was cool. And I reversed out of it by myself because things kind of ended. And so that was a learning experience on its own, seeing how your hormones go crazy, right? And trying to balance everything out and just understand more of your body and what it needs. That was something that was really eye opening to me. And I've always loved getting into the nitty gritty when it comes to nutrition and, everything science based when it comes to muscle building and all of that fun stuff. So got really into that. And especially with being a personal trainer from the previous years, they were at commercial gyms, but I loved doing that. Always loved helping people. I am the therapist of my friend group. You can ask. I will try to find them and you can message them. But yeah, I don't know. Give things from a neutral perspective. So if you ever need advice, I will not be your therapist, but I can give you my 2 cents of 24 years of experience now, which is crazy. I'm closer to 30 than I am to 18, but let's not crash out right now. Let's save that for later. Okay. Anyways, back to the point. So that those things fell through, right? And I started getting into the body weight exercises when I lost weight. So when I did the cutting program, I lost probably like 12, 14 pounds, somewhere along those lines. And for me, I'm 5'3". I'm a little short thing. So someone of my size, that was a lot of weight to lose. And it was insane to me because I had never really focused on the body weight exercises, but I was pretty big back, like I mentioned, big back Tina. You can call me that, maybe, if you're lucky. But I would do a lot of heavy hack squats. That was my main thing. I love shoulder press, all this fun stuff. But you get bored after a while, right? You want to try something new. And so when I got into that, I was like, oh my gosh, I'd go to this park by my house every single morning, like 6, 7 a.m., and just train. And I started documenting my journey on Instagram because it was so fun. And I thought, someone can relate to the process. It's a journey and I am loving it. And I started making content around it because I genuinely became obsessed with it. And it's all I wanted to do is just, progress and see what I was capable of doing with my body. And so I did that. Pull-ups went up a ton. A lot of things just got easier the more consistent I was with everything. Yeah, it felt really good. And then I started posting my journey and it was cool to see it motivate a lot of people, and I had trained people in person, and the idea of online training as well was kind of foreign to me. And then I got into that, eventually launched my own online personal training business, which I love and I'm super passionate about too. That and content creation, right? Because the purpose of my Instagram is to hopefully motivate other people in everything I post, that you can literally do anything you set your mind to. If there's one thing about me, I know if I commit to something, I'm going to do it. If I say I'm going to do it, may take a little bit, but I will do it. And so when I have a goal, I'm set, I'm super locked in on it. And I've always been someone who's stuck to their word in that way. So when I started posting everything, I got some clients from social media and I loved helping people. And for me, even when I would train people in person, I would see the light get brought back to them right behind their eyes. I still remember one of the women I trained, and she was going through a divorce, a hard time, and it brought the light back to her life. And just seeing them being fulfilled, right, with their transformation and trying to become the best versions of themselves is so fulfilling in both ways, right? You feel like you did everything you could to get them to that level, and they did it, right? They were accountable for everything, or you held them accountable for everything. And it's so great to see that you're changing people's lives and that you were able to get them in a better place mentally and physically. So that is something that I think it's a hard feeling to beat. And when you build relationships that way, you keep them forever. It's a different kind of feeling. Anyways, getting off track, calisthenics. So backtrack, 2 years ago, I was at the Fit Expo in LA and I went to a competition called Battle of the Bars, or I don't want to butcher that. It was Battle of the Bars. That's what it was called. And I went to Battle of the Bars at the Fit Expo in Los Angeles, and I ended up staying there for hours the whole day, and I saw people doing crazy stuff on the bar. I'm like, what is this? This is crazy. And I was the only chick there because I tend to have, I guess, more masculine hobbies. I don't really know, even though this, I'm trying to be a girly girl right now, but I'm working on it, okay? As we get older, I'm like, wow, let's try to health max a little bit, whatever you people call it. Anyways, saw people doing crazy stuff on the bar and I loved it. I was like, wow, this is sick. I found myself there the whole day, met people who were into calisthenics, which now I know exactly what it is, but it was freestyle at the time. And yeah, I saw that. That was a glimpse into it. And then I just kept finding myself being around it. And so when I cut the weight, right, started going to the park, documenting the journey, loved it, fell in love with it. And I hurt myself for like 3 months earlier in the middle of this year, and it kind of messed with me mentally. I'm sure, if anyone's had a setback when it comes to injuries, your first big one, it's like, wow, this sucks. And so I started thinking to myself in the gym, wow, this sucks. When I would feel the pain, it hurt when I go to bed, everything. I thought it was my lower back, but it was my hip. And I genuinely, this is another video I'll have to do, but there is such a correlation between your body and your mind. It's crazy. Your mind can literally amplify your physical state that you're in. And it's insane to me because once I started shifting my perspective and I was like, oh, wait a minute, no, like this sucks, to be blunt, right? You hurt yourself and you're feeling this pain every day, but you are now doing exercises that you weren't able to do before. You now know how to rehab certain things like this. So if anyone has a problem, you can help a potential client out. And I started rethinking in these ways, reframing it in a way that it was a little bit more positive because I've always struggled with when I want to be, or how do I put this? When I believe something, I always doubt it afterwards if I'm expressing it out loud because I don't want to sound dumb, right? For thinking that what I'm saying I can actually make happen. Perfect example is the social media aspect of things, right? Having my own online coaching business, doing content creation in UGC, working with these brands and getting these deals. When I tell people that out loud, I naturally cringe, right? I'm like, this is what I love doing. I genuinely do. I love documenting the process, the journey. If it inspires and motivates someone, that is my ultimate goal, to help people out, right? I love it. And I don't know. I think a lot of people get stuck in a place physically and mentally. And I just want everyone to know that it is temporary and you genuinely can get your way out of it. There's so many healthier routes to take than what you might think. We're getting off track a little bit. But yeah, so I hurt myself and I started reframing everything, and it changed things for the better because it made a shift happen in me where I'm like, oh my gosh, you can't think this way or else you will literally physically feel everything, both, well, physically and mentally. And there's some other stuff that happened that made me realize how powerful your mind is, let's put it that way. So you got to make sure you're in the right headspace. But when I came back from my injury, right, which is probably September, is when I started working out consistently again, and the pain lessened a lot. And started doing more of the body weight stuff, started documenting even more of my journey again. And it has been so fun and so addicting. And I am now training for a competition in February, my first one. Let me tell you, I am so scared, but comfort kills. Okay. You got to grow outside of your comfort zone. And a lot of times, if you're scared to take that next step, I read a book on this. It's called is it called the Big Leap? And it talks about your limiting beliefs and how, when you are entering a new chapter in your life and you have this feeling and you don't know what to do with it, right? You're scared, you're anxious. That's because you realize you can make it happen. If you keep going the route you're taking and you actually take action, you can do it, right? You get out what you put into it. And that's the reality of the things you want in life. If you work hard enough, then I truly believe that you can achieve anything you set your mind to. Obviously, there's certain circumstances, let's be logical here, but yeah, if you have a passion, which I'm so passionate about calisthenics and I want to make it cool again, it's already cool, but for women, especially in the United States, I see people elsewhere in different countries and it seems to be a lot more popular, but here, nobody's really into it, at least in my area, like I am. So it would be cool to see more women get into the sport and have the courage to do so. Let me explain briefly why you should get into it if you're a woman now. Okay, so do not be discouraged because you can genuinely start from anywhere. You can start from your house. I literally started at a park that's nearby because if you're a little bit scared to get into the gym, well, guess what? With calisthenics, you can do it anywhere and nobody's watching you. I would go to this park, it'd be foggy, perfect vibe, 6, 7 a.m., and just train, try new skills, try new variations of, push ups, pull ups, things like that, see where my baseline is at, and then go from there and figure out what I wanted to learn. I just got my first freaking muscle up, which I am stoked about. The most euphoric feeling I felt in my entire life, if not the most. It's up there. But it is so rewarding, especially as a woman. And when you get into calisthenics too, you can realize that you have been neglecting certain things. So coming from a weightlifting background, I realized I was focused a lot on the strength side of things, trying to hack squat a ton and hip thrust, all of this stuff. But when I got into calisthenics, it made me realize the little things I was neglecting. So when I hurt my hips, right, when I started rehabbing it, doing more mobility based workouts, then when I came back, I could finally get into things like an elbow lever. And if you don't know what that is, it's balancing on with your elbows in your chest. You can look it up too, but things like that. I couldn't get into full hip extension because my hips were tight, my hip flexors, my psoas, everything was just like, ooh, like screaming to get out. And so once I started working on those little things, I realized, wow, you really do gain full body awareness when you get into calisthenics. And it is something that is amazing, right? So it was a very cool experience. And also just other things too, like scapular protraction, retraction, when you're doing dead hangs, an active hang versus a passive hang, not neglecting shoulder mobility, all of this stuff, because when you're doing certain exercise, you're moving your body as a unit. So it's a little bit different than isolating a specific muscle group with accessory work in the gym. Obviously, you can still do things like that, but I can explain this a ton later. But that's another reason why you should get into it. Also, it makes you makes you feel like a little bad bee. I don't know. I don't know if I'm allowed to say anything on YouTube. This is my first video. It will get better, but it's awesome, and we just need more women in the sport. It's a male dominated sport, and that's probably why I'm so nonchalant. I'm a finance bro. I'm doing calisthenics, and I'm trying to be more of a girly girl, to be honest. But yeah, that's a little bit of my backstory and why you should get into calisthenics as a woman. There is a lot more that I could yap on. I'm a professional yapper, and sometimes I don't stop talking. So I'm going to stop before I say something very out of pocket. But welcome to the YouTube channel. Hopefully you learned something here. If you clicked on this video, I hope it's because you are motivated to start or you don't know what to do, and I will start posting some more on here. But yeah, my name is Christina, Tina Lee. Really depends on the situation. Once again, I'm going off track, so I'm gonna stop here. But have a blessed day, and we'll see you next time.